Hello and welcome everyone to another inventRight.com TV show. Little advertisement, check out our website, inventRight.com, click on coaching, learn more about how Stephen, myself, and our coaches have been coaching and mentoring inventors for the last 15 years. Stephen, the topic I wanted to talk about today is what our InventRight students focus on, which is very different than what most inventors focus on. So okay. It's super chicken scratch, but I actually wrote down a few notes. Can you believe that?
No.
So let's go through what our students focus on so people can get a little bit of perspective on what we believe is really important. Okay. We can't cover it everything, but it's going to be an overview. So first, one is research. So people, oh, I haven't seen it at the store. I Googled it for 10 minutes. I couldn't find it, and there's this sense that they're trying to prove there's nothing like it. And that's not what you're really trying to research. You're trying to find out what else is out there in that space and what we call that micro category, and how does mine fit in? And they're not using the right research techniques. They're not looking in the right place. They have that mindset, oh, it's an artist mindset. I'm going to prove that nothing like it exists, when they should really say, how does it fit in? So that's the first thing our students focus on. The second thing is they don't...
And Andrew, I want to say one thing, and you're right about that. And because they have that attitude, they're not really looking long enough, and they're not looking at it the right way.
Yeah.
So they're going about it completely backwards.
Yeah, and it's a very... So the topic of this show is, what do InventRight students focus on? And our students do a good job, and our coaches force them to focus on that on their first project. And then their second or third or fourth, it becomes natural, and they start to do it on their own.
Okay. What's
the
number
next
two?
thing is
Give me number two.
They don't get obsessed about prototypes. Are there projects where you need, a lot in the way of a prototype? Yes. But quite often, literally their prototype is something they got photoshopped. It doesn't exist. Because they know when the company says, how do we make it? You're like, oh, well, it's like this product over here, but you put a hinge on the back, and they're like, oh, yeah, we can do that. So
now, wait a minute. You're telling me that I don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Our students don't spend thousands and thousands of dollars, and they polish up that prototype. They keep on making revisions and revisions before you know it. I mean, they love it. They love it. They don't do that?
No, they don't. They don't focus too heavily on that. Now, again, I'm not saying that there's some products where you need to focus a little bit more on prototypes, but they don't get obsessed about it. They know they got to get it done. And it might be something they get photoshopped. It might be something they bought at Walmart and cannibalize and change a little bit. Maybe it doesn't really even work, but they know it could work. Maybe it works, but looks ugly. But they don't get obsessed about prototypes. But they do it. They move on to the next step. So the next step is your presentation to companies, either a sell sheet, which is a one-page advertisement, or a video. And they really focus on this because this is the salesperson. This sell sheet or video is your salesperson. It does the selling for you. So when you send this to companies, you don't need to give a big pitch on the phone. You don't need to go out and, as Steven says, dance on the corporate boardroom table. You don't need to do any of that. And it's very, very important. One of our coaches is on vacation, and I looked at a sell sheet from one of our students this morning, Steven, and it was okay. But I explained to him, I said, look, it needs to be, I get it in like 6 seconds. And it wasn't. And there was, the picture was very distracting. Actually, the background that the graphic designer did it for was great. But there was a few things that were so distracting. I told him what my knee-jerk reaction was, and I said, the companies will perceive it that way too.
But wait a minute, Andrew, I think you're absolutely right, number one. And I think this is the one area that I would say most product developers, inventors really shoot themselves in the foot.
They get a little lazy with the presentation.
I don't think they really have the full grasp on what it should be like. They don't have any. They don't have a person to work with. I think they kind of work alone, and when they think they've got it right, and then they start to show it, they don't get a response back, or companies don't call them, and they wonder why. What am I doing wrong? And their one-line benefit statement's not very strong. Maybe they're even submitting it to the wrong company half the time. I mean, there's a lot of things you see that they don't really focus on.
That was a great lead into the next step, which is they really focus on listed companies. So a lot of times they make their list, or students make their list, especially on their first project, And the coach looks at it and says, well, yeah, those 4 companies are great, but I think you could have 20 or 30. If you looked here, here, and here, you'd have 20 or 30. So we're always pushing our students, and once our students get used to it, they're pushing themselves to have a long list of companies, not a very, very short list. Because more companies, more chances for success. Less companies, less chances for success. Don't just do your 2 or 3 dream companies. So that's another thing they focus on. They do their PPAs, but they don't get obsessed about it, a provisional patent. We train our students how to do a provisional patent application. We've had a wide array of students over the last 15 years. Students that didn't have a GED, to students with a PhD, inventRight students, and I've never had a student that couldn't file their own PPA. Not one. It is very doable. And one of the things that they understand is that 70% of filing a provisional is just being an inventor, which you guys are already inventors. Just thinking about all the variations, workarounds, and improvement. The other 30% is the stuff that we teach them on how to word things, but it's not as hard as you think. They don't get obsessed about it, they just do it and move on.
Okay.
What are you moving on to? 2 things. You're getting into companies, you're calling companies, you get more confident with that. When you realize you're just trying to make a connection and say, can I send you my sell sheet or video? You're not giving a big pitch. It's a lot less intimidating. So they just hit it and hit it and hit it. And you could have a great sell sheet, great provisional, done all your research, done all this stuff, but if you don't hit it hard to get into all of your 30 companies, and you might have to call some companies 8 times, send them an email 5 times. Our students focus extremely heavily on that. That is why our students are successful.
It's funny. I've never thought of it the way you just said it.
What do you mean? We've said that before. What did I say that was new?
Yeah, but it's just the way you kind of compared of what an amateur person's doing and what we consider a person that's becoming a pro doing.
Right.
And they, some of the steps anybody can do, but to really fine tune, to really know the difference between what's a good sell sheet, what's a bad sell sheet, do I have enough companies, all the things that we've been teaching for so many years that seem so simple to us.
Right.
It sounds simple, but it's not as simple as you guys think it is. I know we write about it, we talk about it, we do these YouTube videos about it, we try to give you all the information about it, but there is a big difference.
Yeah, there's a big difference between an amateur calling 3 companies and calling them all once and then not getting a response and giving up, and our student having 30 companies, calling some 6 times, sending some 4 or 5 emails. There's a huge difference between those 2 things. Huge. And then, of course, negotiating, not being afraid to talk to the companies that are interested. We support our students while they're doing that, so we tell them what to say back to an email, what to say on the next phone call. So they have a real comfort level. I can understand people's apprehension in all the what-ifs. What if they say this? What if they say that? I understand the average person on the street being worried about that. But anyway,
I think a lot of people flip out at the very end, because even if you've done half these steps and it starts to work, and then you get this guy on another line that starts asking questions, and people flip out.
Yeah,
we see that all the time too. Because
and thinking that they're going to lead you, they're going to tell you what to do next. You're guiding it more than they are most of the time when you know how to license. But anyway,
Andrew, we're coming up on
we're
the right time,
at 8.5 minutes, so we're good.
We got to wrap this up.
Got to wrap this up, guys. So I wanted to give you guys some perspective. These are the things that inventRight students focus on. These are the main things, nothing else. I'm not saying other things don't come up. These are the main things. If you focus on these same things, you will increase your chances for success. I want to remind everybody to take care, keep inventing, and we'll catch you up with you on the next inventRight.com TV show. See you. Bye-bye.